All right. All right, we're going to continue on. So here's the deal. So today I got about 40 minutes of your time, and we're going to cover 3 things. All right, raise your hand if you're a senior. Everybody, right? So it's almost go time. This ride of living at home or whatever, it's about to go bye-bye, and now you have to go into adulthood. No fun, but it's coming. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the United States Coast Guard, why we exist. Raise your hand if you have a job. All right, you guys pay taxes, right? Taxes pay us. So at a minimum today, you're going to learn what your tax dollars pays the Coast Guard to do for you as citizens of the United States. Fair enough? So we're going to talk about why the Coast Guard exists, some missions we do, some things we do. We're going to learn something about the Coast Guard. And then after that, we'll talk about benefits of serving in the military. And then after that, we'll wrap it up with how you would go about finding if you're eligible for service in the military. Does that make sense? You guys have any questions? Here's all I ask of you. I got a bag of swag that we don't want to leave with, all right? And I don't want to just sit here and talk to a bunch of people that don't talk back. So I'm going to ask questions. There's no dumb answers. Let's just roll with it. You answer it, we'll throw swag at you, and we'll go from there. Does that make sense? You guys good with that? All right, cool. So here we go. So the United States Coast Guard, we are a branch of the military, all right? If you have DOD recruiters in here, and we'll get into those acronyms and stuff, you might hear, Coast Guard, they're not even real military. We'll explain why, different things. So we're going to start off, who can tell me how many branches of the military there are? Go ahead.
Marines, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, National Guard. That's not it, right? Space Force.
Yeah, right. Well, you got 6. So, yeah, I think you said, did you say Army and National Guard? Yeah. So National Guard is Army.
Or does that fall under the same category?
Right. So okay. Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force. So 6 branches of the military, okay?
Did you know those things?
You didn't know about the Space Force? Yeah, it's all right.
As soon as you said that, I was like, Buzz Lightyear?
Yeah, maybe. That's about all I know. Maybe, I don't know. All right, but Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, and Space Force. So there's 6 branches of the military, okay? If all branches did the same, there'd be 1 branch. So there's 6 different, we're all in 6 different businesses, all right? 5 of those fall under one department, and 1 of those falls under a different department. Who can tell me what the DOD stands for? Does anybody know what the DOD stands for? Department of Defense. Good job, right? Department of Defense. What 5 branches fall under the Department of Defense?
Marines, Army, Navy.
Everybody but the Coast Guard.
You guys fall under Homeland Security.
Good. All right, you guys, that's more than most people know, right? We fall under the Department of Homeland Security. So you have Army, Marines, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force. They fall under the Department of Defense, and their job is what? What's the job of the Department of Defense?
Defend the nation.
Defend the nation. As generic as it sounds, it's right? Their job is to train, and deploy out and protect us against enemies, land, air, sea, foreign, domestic. We have bases all around the world. They have bases, and basically they're training to keep us safe. All right, so there's not much room for error in war, so they're training a lot. Okay, so you could be stationed in Germany, you could be stationed wherever, and you're training for action. Does that make sense? So Department of Defense. Then you have Department of Homeland Security. United States Coast Guard falls under that. Do you guys know any other branches that fall under the Department of Homeland Security? Or not branches, but any other agencies that fall under the Department of Homeland Security? Go ahead.
Secret Service?
Okay.
Police?
Okay, form of police. You ever heard of Customs Border Patrol? And I'm not lying to you guys. I will pay you all this swag. It's just I can't multitask, so I'm just going to do that after, all right? So I'll remember. You guys will all get paid, I promise. And then you?
The FBI?
FBI is federal. So I'm going to roll with it. So we have Department of Homeland Security. Who's ever heard of Customs and Border Patrol? You guys have heard of that, all right? Who's ever heard of, ICE? Okay? All right? So, is that funny, ICE? Why?
No.
ICE, not ISIS. No. ICE is a different agency. No, we're Immigration Customs Enforcement. All right. So you have ICE, you have Customs Border Patrol, you have Coast Guard. What do those agencies do? What are they in the business of? What's Customs and Border? Law enforcement, right? So they're in the business of law enforcement. So the United States Coast Guard, we're in the business of law enforcement. So we're going to put a pin in that and we'll talk. So the Coast Guard does law enforcement is one of our missions. And because we have to do law enforcement, we couldn't be under the Department of Defense. So just stay with me on this, all right? I'm gonna summarize it like this. If you had a boat full of cocaine, if this dude was moving a boat full of cocaine right now on the water, all right? Wait to see. Right? If he was moving a boat full of cocaine on the water and a Navy ship came by, it couldn't do anything to him except call the Coast Guard. And the reason for that is because they are under Department of Defense. It's a violation of martial law. There's all kinds of things that go into it because the Department of Defense's job is to train, and then protect us in war. They don't care. They're not busting cocaine busts. Now, Navy ships, for the most part, are going to have a Coast Guard boarding team on board so they can assist us, but we bring the authority and the jurisdiction to bust you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So because of those reasons, we can't be under the Department of Defense. Because if we were under the Department of Defense, we couldn't do that law enforcement mission that they need us to do. Does that make sense? So for those reasons, they move us under Department of Homeland Security, and that gives us the authority and jurisdiction to do the law enforcement mission. But United States Code says that we shall be deemed a branch of the armed forces at all times. So for those reasons, we get all those military benefits that the DoD gets.
Do you guys still end up employing some of you?
Yeah, we assist, but it's a much different thing because and we're going to get into that next. We're going to talk about what the Coast Guard does, and you'll see that. Like an Army base, for instance, they're training, and then when they need them to go fight, they can pack that whole base up and go out and fight. There's no obligation here to the home front. We couldn't do that. If we packed up a station out here, and boating doesn't stop, who's going to? You're going to get sorry, Coast Guard station's closed. We can't come save you from drowning. So we can't deploy at the way they do. Does that make sense to you? All right. So with that, you guys learn about why we're Department of Homeland Security, not Department of Defense, right?
Yes. So
now when you hear another recruiter from a different branch talk kind of about Coast Guard, they're not even real military. You can understand the reason that we're not Department of Defense is because we have to do law enforcement. Okay? You guys have any questions about that? All right, so now we're going to talk about Coast Guard, why they exist, what they do. Who knows what the Coast Guard does? Does anybody know what we do? Give me something generic. What do you think? What do you think we do? I just told you we do law enforcement, so that one's off the table. What else do we do?
Patrol the coast.
Patrol the coast. I'll work with that, right? We patrol the coast, right? And what do we do? What else do we do when we're patrolling the coast?
Handle distress calls.
Handle distress calls, search and rescue, right? So we go out. If you are in trouble, we are going to come out and we are going to save you. We have men and women that will jump out of helicopters to save you. We have boats that flip and they come right back up and can keep going. We have... Everybody ever seen Waterboy with Adam Sandler? Right? Yeah. You remember Mama had that big fan boat? Right? We have those kind of things to come shoot across the ice to save you if you fall through the ice.
It's like an airboat.
It's like an airboat. Yes, all right? So we have all that kind of stuff, and we will come save you, and we will respond to you no matter what to come save you. What else do? We regulate basically anybody that makes money on the water. So what are some examples of things that make money on the water?
The tankers that come through here.
Tankers that come through here, right? What are they bringing?
Oil. I don't know. That's too good.
Cocaine? Yeah, I'm worried about it.
You made the joke.
All right. So I don't think the tankers are bringing cocaine. They might. I don't know, but he's right. They're bringing goods, right? Who has something made in China? Everybody's hand better be up, right? All right. So you guys all have something made in China. So that stuff comes over from ships that are based out of China with all foreign crews. What do you guys expect them to do when they come in here? If you were running a ship and you came into our waters, somebody has to make sure you're following all the rules to come into our water, right? They're making sure you're doing your engine maintenance. They're making sure that you're doing everything possible because we're trying to prevent something from happening. If nobody held you accountable, maybe you don't change your oil as frequently as you're supposed to. Maybe you don't do something, whatever, and then that could lead to a higher risk of something happening in our waterway, which messes up our ecosystem. Does that make sense? Because you guys eat the stuff out of there and all that. So we have to, as the Coast Guard, we have to make sure that everything is right. We run their crews through fire drills. Why do you think we run a all-Chinese crew through a fire drill on their ship? Why would we do that?
So they know what to do.
So they know what to do, right? If nobody holds them accountable, they come into our water and they have a fire and everyone's like, oh crap, I don't know what to do. Now it's going to be worse than it has to be. Does that make sense? So we're in the business of preventing something bad. Now let's talk about some other stuff, because time is going fast. What are some other things that make money on the water? Go ahead.
Marine architecture?
Commercial fishing, marine architecture. Okay, so we'll go with commercial fishing. You guys ever taken a fishing charter out here? You ever paid somebody to take you guys fishing? You have, okay. And what do you expect when you go on that fishing charter? You expect to catch fish, but you expect to relax, and that the person knows what the hell they're doing, and they're not some crazy convicted felon who's a cokehead, right? Right? You're expecting all that kind of stuff. You're expecting all that kind of stuff, and you're paying them money for that. Somebody has to license that, and somebody has to make sure you hold them accountable, and the United States Coast Guard does that for them, okay? How about a cruise ship? Anybody ever been on a cruise in here? Okay, what did you expect on a cruise? What were you hoping for?
Luxury.
You don't want to think about, does this person know what they're doing? If this thing hits something, are there enough life rafts on here for me to be able to get back safe, right? We learned from Titanic, right? So the United States Coast Guard is going to come in there and they're going to make sure that they're doing their maintenance and that they have enough life rafts and all that kind of stuff. So compliance, we're making sure that they're doing what they have to. And if they don't, we can fine them, we can ban them from coming back here, we can lock them down to port, we can do all kinds of stuff to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, because we work for you, the taxpayers of America, to make sure that everything you guys get, that you get what you're hoping, right? Does that make sense? How about BP? Anybody know what happened with BP oil spill? Anybody ever seen Deepwater Horizon? Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Anyone? No one? Man, we're getting old, man. All right. So no one. So you know about BP? What happened?
They had a oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, right?
Right. Okay. So let's talk about that. So BP. Every story has a villain and a hero, right? So BP is a petroleum. They have gas stations. They're in the oil business. They had something happen, oil was pumping, media's got to get on there. They showed little ducks dying, covered in oil. They show beaches devastated. They show all kinds of stuff, right? So let's walk through this. Let's say this guy right here in the Adidas sweatshirt, what's your name? Tyler. Let's say Tyler works for BP. He's everybody's enemy now, right? They act like he did this on purpose and he wanted to kill the ducks and pollute the beaches. So it's just a mess, and BP's the villain. What are you doing? What are you doing? And then let's say this guy right here works for a company called Clean Harbors, where they do the cleanups, and he's got a crew and skimmers and everything that's going to restore and clean up all your stuff, right? So in this situation, this dude is high-fiving his partners as he flies over because he knows BP is going to pay him anything he wants. Anything at all, because he's the bad guy and he can't be cheap, right? In the meantime, we got to make sure he's not cutting corners and he's doing everything he can to give you taxpayers back your clean waters, animals, every beaches, all that stuff comes back. So Coast Guard, MSP1 over there, he's going to be involved in that situation. He's going to be at all the meetings. He's going to be on four-wheelers, on the beaches, on the boats, making sure the Clean Harbors crew is doing what they're supposed to. They're doing what the BP people are paying for, and they're not just napping and BSing around on that boat, right? So the Coast Guard acts as the federal on-sea coordinator. We're there just to bridge the gap to make sure, because we have the best interests of the American people. Does that make sense to you guys? You guys understand that? All right, so search and rescue. We'll come out whenever. Law enforcement, we stop more drugs than all federal agencies combined. So we come out there and we stop some products from coming into the United States. Is it all of it? No. It's unfortunately an unwinnable battle, but we do a good job. We have men and women in helicopters with snipers that can shoot out engines of drug boats. We will do whatever we have to do to try to stop that. All right? We have search and rescue. We have helicopters. People think we're only boats. We have helicopters as well. We have men and women that regulate everybody that makes money on the water. We have all that kind of stuff. Now, some of you in here, I heard one kid run out of here before because he's like, I don't do boats. We're a business. We are a business like anything. And businesses have IT departments. Businesses have electricians. Businesses have welders, businesses have health service technicians. We have all that kind of stuff. We have admin, we have supply, which do the purchasing. So just because you join the Coast Guard, don't be like, oh, that sounds cool, but I would never want to do that. I'm not asking you to jump out of that helicopter. Now, if you want to, we have people that can do that. I'm not asking you to go into a boat that flips and comes back up. If you want to, we have jobs where you can do that. But if you want to come in because you believe in the Coast Guard's mission and you want to play a support role in everything that to keep us going, we have that as well. Okay? So, United States Coast Guard, Department of Homeland Security, because of our law enforcement capability, we do search and rescue, we do law enforcement, we regulate everybody that makes money on the water, we respond to oil spills, natural disasters, we do all that kind of stuff, and we do it because the taxpayers pay us to do that. Do you guys have any questions about that? We are based in the United States, and we have all the same military benefits as all the other branches. Okay?
You guys got special forces?
We do. We have deployable special forces, and we can talk more about things offline after. I'm just going to kind of go through the stuff, and then we'll be available for questions after. But does anybody have any questions? Because that is 1/3 of my time, so that is 1/3 of my presentation. So does anybody have any questions about why the Coast Guard exists? Did you learn something?
Yes, sir.
Raise your hand if you learned something. That's a win, all right? So now you learned that. All right, so part 2, benefits of joining and serving in the military. Let's talk about that real quick. I'm not just talking about the Coast Guard here. I'm talking about all branches of the military. Service in the United States military. Let's talk about that. What are benefits you guys have heard? Healthcare. So healthcare is no joke, all right? I have been in the Coast Guard since I was 18 years old, so I'm not real savvy on what civilian healthcare costs, but I do have civilian neighbors, and I know that my one civilian neighbor, for his family of 4, pays about $900 a month for his healthcare insurance, and he has co-pays. All right, on top of that, that is the world you guys always want to get out of high school and start that real life. Welcome. All right, welcome. There's bills. All right, so he has to pay a lot of money for health care. It's a perk of the armed forces. We have no health care costs. Okay? So we have no copays. We can go to the doctor every single day, every day of the year. We're probably going to die because something's wrong with us, but we can go every single day to the doctor. Prescriptions, 0 cost. Whatever you want, we can go get health care. It's covered. All right? Your wife, kids, husband, kids, whatever you want, boyfriend, girlfriend would be covered. Anything else, like all dependent, all that stuff is covered. All right, so healthcare. What else we got? What are other some perks of joining? Yes. Education. Let's talk about that. Right. So education. What do you guys hear as high school seniors? What do you guys hear from your educators, your teachers, your mentors? What do you kind of hear about your path? What are your options after high school? College. Is that what you hear? College. Got to go to college, right? What else? Military? Okay, so college, military. Anybody ever talk to you guys about trade schools or anything like that? All right, so that's about it. I see about 3, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm just talking to you about my experience. I see about 3 paths for kids to go to, all right? I see a college path, I see a military path, and I see a trade school path. It doesn't matter which path you take. Just do something. That's my suggestion to you guys. Don't really care. Just do something. All right. I'm just here to throw another option in your knowledge book. Okay. Because life with options is a much easier life. You want as many options as possible. So let's talk about those. Trade school. You can go off to trade school, learn a trade, and go out and do that trade. The trades are hurting. Nobody really does it. So you can get into unions, do welding. Electrician, all that kind of stuff is great, all right? Now let's talk about college, because that seems to be where the majority of people go. Who can tell me, you guys are seniors, so I hope you're thinking about it. Raise your hand if you're interested in law enforcement after high school. Wow, it's really, no one does it anymore. All right, I don't blame. All right, IT. 1, 2, all right. Healthcare. Accounting. All right, start shouting stuff out to me. I'm out of ideas. What?
Social worker.
Social worker.
Commercial diving.
Commercial diving. Marine biology.
Oh, no, I was raising my hand because we said marine biology.
All right, so 2 marine biologies. Anything else? What? Business. Very good. Criminal justice. All right. Anything else? Yes. Electrical engineer. All right, we got some motivated kids. I like it. So we're gonna kind of talk real quick. We'll use an example on this one. So I need 2 volunteers. Right here. That was a fast hand, and we'll go with you. All right, come on up. All right, let's just talk about this. What's your name? Rosa. All right. So I didn't see the unanimous, so we can use an example. We can talk healthcare. We can talk marine biologists, I guess. What do you want to use for the example? We can do law enforcement.
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement. All right. Well, so we'll use an example on law enforcement. There wasn't a lot of interest in law enforcement, so I'm not too in love with this scenario, but we can work through it. So Rosa, at 18 years old, she decided she's graduating from here and she's going to move forward in her life. So she wants to go. She's going to go into college. Nothing wrong with this path. This is just an example to get your wheels turning and thinking about, okay, I see what he's saying. So she goes, what's a college around here? A big college or something like that. Think big, D1.
Yeah.
Yale? Let's think not private. Is that private or is that commercial? That's private. Let's talk UConn. The Huskies, right? All right. Is that Huskies?
Yeah.
All right. UConn. So Rosa joins she goes to UConn and enrolls in their criminal justice degree. How long program? How long is that degree program? 4, right? How much is UConn a year, you think? 15. Is it 15? 14. Is that just tuition, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
And then you got to have housing, food, things like that. You guys just want to go with 20? You guys think 20 is fair for a year for UConn?
I think that's cheap.
You think that's cheap?
I think UConn 50 is crazy, close to 40 a year.
We'll split the difference and call it 30. All right, so 30 grand a year for UConn. Rosa enrolls. Rosa was good in school. She got some grants. She did her due diligence. She knocked off 25% of her tuition somehow through grants. So Rosa, 18 years old, enrolls into UConn. She's got simple math. We'll go divided by 4. Man, I don't know. I'm a boast. We'll say 20. We'll call it 25,000 a year. What's 25 times 4? 100. So 100 G's to get her through 4 years at UConn criminal justice degree program. Nothing wrong with that. Tons of people do that every year and they're successful. All right. Where does a college kid work while they're going to college? Where? What's your favorite? Where do you work now? You work now? No? Starbucks. All right. We heard Starbucks. She works at Starbucks. She is phenomenal worker. There early, stays late, whatever they need. She promotes to shift manager. She holds the job down for 4 years. She got a promotion. Give her a round of applause, right? Good job. She's shift manager at Starbucks. She works for 4 years at Starbucks. She's shift manager. She's got a good resume because she shows the ability to hold down a job. She's not bouncing job to job every time someone hurts her feelings. She's able to hold it down. She does it. She gets her grades done. She finances, pays down some of her debt. And now she's 22 years old. She goes to New Haven Police Department to interview for the job. And she sits down in the waiting room. All right? Now break. What's your name? Victor. Victor was so moved by my speech when he was a senior in high school that he decided to join the Coast Guard. So Victor goes into the Coast Guard. He goes to 8 weeks at boot camp in Cape May, New Jersey. While he's in there, he gets he wonders why he did it. He's like, this stinks. But after 8 weeks, boot camp comes to an end, and he goes out, and we have guaranteed BM school right now. So he goes off to Yorktown, Virginia, to be a BOSA mate just like me. He goes to BOSA mate school. He learns how to do search and rescue, law enforcement. He drives boats. He does that. He's a leadership over non-race, and he goes off to his first unit, and then they send him to Charleston, South Carolina, to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and he goes to a course to become a boarding officer in the United States Coast Guard. He returns to his unit. He does 50 to 70 law enforcement boardings a year. He carries a gun. He's got a bulletproof vest on. He does all that kind of stuff. He does it for 4 years, and at the age 22, he says, I'm done. I want to get out and go to college. He gets out. He goes to college. He goes to college. He goes to UConn because he always wanted to go to UConn. He activates his post 9/11 GI Bill. It pays his books. It pays his tuition, and it gives him a living stipend every month. So he gets about $2,000 a month while school's in session. Summer he doesn't. So He doesn't really have to work at Starbucks. He can more focus on his studies because he's got 2 G's coming in, all right? He now graduates at 26 years old. He's got his bachelor's degree, the same as hers. He goes to New Haven Police to sit down, or FBI, or wherever, and he goes to interview at the police department. Great. They bring her in for an interview. They say, tell us about yourself. I got a good resume. I'm able to hold a job. I'm promotable. I graduated from Unicon. I got a degree in criminal justice, and I'm ready to be a police officer. It's probably a very good interview, a very good resume, but there's only so many spots. Victor comes in there. They say, tell us about yourself. I joined the Coast Guard. I was in the Coast Guard for 4 years. After that, I went out to Yukon. I got my degree. I'm here. I used my post 9/11 GI Bill. I've done 311 law enforcement boardings. I'm a graduate of the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, and I'm ready to be a police officer, and my goal is to be chief of police one day or something like that. Who gets the job? Come on, give me something. Who gets the job? Right there, right? Probably. Maybe he doesn't talk well. Maybe I don't know, but he probably gets, on paper, he's really good. So let's just talk about it. Those 3 paths are what everybody sees. But if everybody goes, and I have a college degree. I got it while I was in it. College is very important. But resumes are becoming very important as well, and you have to be able to stand out and be different than your competition if you want to go get those unique jobs and those high-paying jobs. And now that scenario is only for the law enforcement. We could use that scenario back there, HS1. She's EMT certified. She's worked in a clinic. She can get pharmacy tech qualified. You want to go against her? If you're interviewing at a hospital for a nurse position, you don't want to go against her if you guys have the same education, because she's worked in Coast Guard clinics and has veteran preference points and has done the stuff. Does that make sense to you guys? You guys see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I challenge you all to think ahead, and don't just get fixed on whatever. Think ahead and say, you guys can be all cool, eat lunch together, whatever, but at the end of the day, you guys are all competition when it comes to adulthood. Does that make sense? So I just want you guys to understand that. We'll get you T-shirts after. Thank you. So I appreciate it. We'll get you some T-shirts, all right? So does anybody have any questions about that? So that's just my little, visual on education, all right? I have got to move because I'm running out of time fast. So education, health benefits, 30 days paid vacation. Good luck finding that. We are one of the last entities that will give you a pension after 20 years. And now you don't even have to do 20 years to get a pension. You can get yourself matched right away. You can get matched in a 401k. So what I'm saying is the military, and I'm going to speak to the Coast Guard specifically, we have a very good benefit package and salary package to help you be different than your competition. Do you guys have any questions about that? All right, cool. So that's segment 2, benefits of serving in the military. Last one, how do I find out if I'm okay for the military? Well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to reach out to one of these recruiters that are in Hartford, and they're going to screen you real quick and ask you some questions. And if everything is good, we can get you lined up to go to this wonderful place called MEPS. Has anybody ever heard of MEPS? Yep. All right, MEPS is not a wonderful place. I was being sarcastic, but what MEPS does is it's going to put you through the ASVAB test, and it's going to put you through the medical physical. The medical physical is not a physical fitness test. It's a doctor's physical, like a sports physical, and the results are good for 2 years. So what you can do is you can go there, commitment free, go through your test and physical. They have a 1-day option or a 2-day option. We'll pay for your hotel and meals. And then after that, you can walk away with 6 job offers, because the test and physical are good for all branches of the military. So you go through there, you walk away with that. You can go look, check it out, do whatever you want, and see if that's something that you want to do. Don't just follow the crowd into the Marines or something like that. Do what you want to do. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, 2 years is what it's good for. We're the only branch that doesn't make you commit when we send you to MEPS. If you go to test and physical with a different branch of the military, they are going to ask you to commit. You have to swear in. And if you swear in and decide on a different branch, they can hold you up to 1 year. We don't do that. So if we send you to MEPS, you walk away commitment free with qualified options to be able to go check it out. And I've talked to these people. They're a good recruiting office. If you get qualified through MEPS and you want to go spend a day at a Coast Guard unit and go out on a boat and check it out and see if it's something you like, they can make that happen for you too. We're the only branch that's going to let you do that. The other branches are not going to want you to see their base. All right? They won't take you out there. You can go check it out and see if it's for you. We just can't do that until you go through mesh. Does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions about that? No questions. Nothing. Yes.
What's the diet part about maps? I didn't catch it.
Oh, it's just a long day. It's not. I'm just being like that. It's fine. It's really. It takes like 6 hours. You got to do an ASVAB test and a physical. Do you guys offer the ASVAB here?
No, but we should.
Yeah. Okay. That's
How long is it?
8 weeks. 7.5. 7.5 weeks. My son's in it right now. My son is an electrician. I go out there on Friday. He's graduating from electrician school. He joined right out of high school. He joined because he wanted to be an electrical engineer as well. But he joined the Coast Guard. Has a way where your time in through the U.S. MAPS program, your time as an electrician in, counts towards his journeyman in the civilian sector, and he can knock out his hours that way. So he wanted to do that. So he joined the Coast Guard that way. And we have all that kind of stuff: ITs, ETs. We have all different kinds of stuff that can help you. Do I have till 10:20?
I think 25.
Oh, I thought it was 10:15 or 10:20.
40 to 20. Yeah, 10:25.
All right, cool. We're in bonus time. All right, so here we go. So I'll tell you my recruiting story real quick. So I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. No water in Phoenix, Arizona, right? And one day they said, how do you want to get out of class to go take the ASVAB? So I took out a class. I went and took the ASVAB. After I took the ASVAB, they didn't tell you had to walk into the auditorium and every branch was going to be there. It was going to be pure chaos. So I walk into this auditorium. I went to a big high school in Phoenix, and there's Humvees, there's pull-up bars, there's flight simulators, there's boat simulators, there's all this kind of stuff, and you sign up and they give you swag and it's whatever. And down at the end of the hall was this table with one Coast Guard recruiter with a cup of pens sitting there. He didn't have nothing going on. I went up to him and said, "What do you guys do?" He says, "We save lives, we don't take lives. We do search and rescue law enforcement. We have support rates as well, and we're based out of the United States. Here's my card. I'm not going to call you. You can call me." And I was like, man, this dude's either terrible at his job or there's something going on, right? So I went home. My mom said, what did you do? This is back in the day, we had answering machines. They're like these squares that hang on the wall. And there was like 25 messages. And I pressed play, and it was every DOD branch. You ready? You ready? You ready? You ready? Call me. You ready? The Coast Guard person never called me. And I wasn't really that serious about joining the military. I just wanted to get out of class. And that's what they said I could do if I took the test. So I let it go. I didn't pay any attention. And then someday along I went and toured. I realized how expensive college was. I wasn't going to get any grants. I didn't really feel like going to college. So I kind of said, you know what? I'm going to join. What's the code? That Coast Guard dude never called me. So we called him up. We went out there, checked it out. I joined. I was going to join, and I was going to either be an aviation maintenance tech or I was going to be an electronics tech. I actually had orders to ET school. I went to my first unit, and the Coast Guard is the only branch that does this. The other ones make you pick without ever seeing it. I go to my first unit. I'm hanging out at my first unit. My boss says to me, "You've been here 4 months. What school list do you want to go to?" I was like, "I want to go ET. Of course I want to go ET. Because they're going to make me a bunch of money in the outside world." And I'm not attacking him. He's a good dude. My boss said, "Fine, you're not an ET. Go work with the ETs for 1 week. If you still want to be an ET, come back. We'll put your name on the school list." I made it about a day and a half with the ETs, and I was like, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're talking about transducers, and they're getting all amped up over wires, and I don't want to do it. They said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to drive the boat and go save people when they're in trouble." So he said, "Sounds like Boatswain to me." So I ended up going Boatswain, the search and rescue, law enforcement. I've saved lives. It worked out for me. Had I joined a different branch and I was unsure of what, I would have had to pick my job first. And in that scenario, I would have picked ET. Probably would have hated it for 4 years, and I would have been looking for a new job when I got out after 4 years. Does that make sense to you guys? So that's the power of a feature the Coast Guard has, where you can join the Coast Guard because you like the Coast Guard, but you don't necessarily have to pick your job until you're out in the fleet. And when you're out in the fleet working amongst these people, you can be like, "Your life sucks. I would never want to do that. That's pretty cool," and you can pick the one that's for you. Does that make sense to you guys? Yes.
What do your special forces do?
So we have what's called maritime enforcement specialists. So they're going to go out. We get intel. They're going to be the ones fast roping onto the big drug boats, going after big time drugs, like tons and tons, 17 million, $20 million worth of product. So, yeah, I don't know if you've seen the videos. We have canines with goggles that get lowered down with them to go find it. So we have some cool stuff. And if you need to talk to it, that's the beautiful thing. Get through maps, get whatever you need. They'll go find you an ME to talk to and hang out with you there. And you can check it out and see if that's what you like. That's the power. We're a very small family with a lot of benefits, and we can help you get comfortable with your choice. We can do those things for you. Does that make sense? What do you guys have for me? I have like 6 minutes. You guys got to give me something. Or we have a medical person in here. We have a marine science person in here. We have an admin person in here. We have an electronics technician person. We have a machinery technician, so a boat mechanic. And then I drove boats and did law enforcement. So whatever you guys want, but here's my suggestion to you in closing. I'll take the last couple minutes, but in closing, here's my suggestion. You want to gather right now, you want to gather as many options as you possibly can. If you guys went to go buy a car, you wouldn't buy the first car you drove. You would test drive some cars, right? You want options. So if the military has a small chance in your mind, my suggestion to you is you go find a day or 2 days and you go to MEPS working through a recruiter. Find out if it's real. If it's not real, if you're not qualified for service in the military, guess what? So what? Anybody in here with life experience will tell you life is going to tell you no at times. That's okay. Just keep moving forward. So don't spend your whole senior year saying, I think I'm going to join the Coast Guard. I think I'm going to join the Coast Guard. And then get out of your senior year and finally contact a recruiter, go to MEPS and find out you're not going to serve in the Coast Guard. Now you're hit between the face and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Go over Christmas break. Go over off the school. See if you can work out a deal with your teachers where if you go to MEPS, it's an excused absence. I don't know. But go find out if you're qualified for military service, and then now you know it's a real option versus assuming it's a real option and then never taking the day or two to find out if it is and being shocked later than you have to because now you're behind the competition. Does that make sense to you guys? So that is my suggestion to you. So if you think the military, you could see it, you want to find out, go check it out, right? Where do they stay? What hotel? In Dallas, we stay in the Hilton. Where do they stay? Hilton, right? Hilton, meals. Check it out, man. It's not a bad gig. Go find out if it's real. Walk away. One day, if you do the one-day option, one day walk away with 6 job offers. Go tour colleges. Go check out trade schools. Compile all your options, and then pick one. Don't sit on your parents' couch till you're 22 eating Cheetos saying you're still weighing your options. All right? Because the world will pass you by. You guys raise your hand if you want to make money. No one's coming up to hand you money, man. You need to go find it. You need to go make yourself marketable, and you need to go make yourself hireable. Does that make sense to you guys? Anybody have any questions for me? Did you guys learn something today? Yes.
Do you live do you live on in the water? Not in the water.
Yes, I live underwater.
Yeah. No, it's not.
I actually live in a house.
Oh,
We all live in houses.
I know, but I thought
You mean like Vegas on the coast?
Yeah, like a
base
base.
on the coast. Like
Talk to a recruiter about it. We have some units like in some real like northern Cali or something like that where they'll have barracks or stuff like that. But we're a small branch, so the majority of our units you're going to draw housing and money, and then you just have based on the zip code, and you'll just have to go get your own place, and then just come to work. Does that make sense? So do we have flyers here? Is there information for the recruiters on those flyers?
It all goes to me, but I can pass it along to everybody else in the office.
Don't assume you're qualified. Don't assume that you don't even have to know how to swim to join the Coast Guard. We'll teach you.
Floaties and training.
We'll teach you. But you guys don't assume that stuff. Reach out, check it out, go from there. Does anybody have any questions for me? You guys have been great. Awesome school. What a view. Enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed that stuff. Any questions whatsoever, they'll help you. Thank you for having me. Anything else? No questions. It was that good that you have no questions.